Communication network. Using a combination of tapping codes, strategic use of echo chambers, and what appeared to be an innate understanding of acoustics, he had connected 17 isolated prisoners across 4 different security levels. The daily lessons had evolved into full discussions. Thekmore, imprisoned for quantum fraud, offered insights into the mathematical precision of human poetry. Vexali, a void walker serving time for temporal smuggling, compared Mitchell's description of Shakespeare's tragedies to the death songs of her people. Even Grunkoff, a notoriously antisocial boulder beast, had begun contributing his observations about the small human stories Mitchell shared. "This is unprecedented," Zeldar muttered, reviewing the psychological evaluation reports. Isolation-induced aggression down 70%. Suicide attempts at 0 for the first time in station history. Even the most violent offenders are requesting access to Professor Mitchell's curriculum. The breaking point came when Mitchell somehow orchestrated a prison-wide poetry recital. During what should have been silent meal period, every prisoner in the facility began reciting verses in perfect unison, a different language from each species, but all following the same rhythm and meter. "Ow!" Zeldar demanded during his first face-to-face meeting with Mitchell. "How did you organize this?" Mitchell shrugged, that peculiar human gesture that somehow conveyed both innocence and defiance. "Stories won't be shared, Warden. They're not meant to live alone. You were sentenced to solitary confinement for a reason." "Yeah, for talking during quiet time on my transport ship." Mitchell's expression grew serious. "Look, Warden, I know I'm supposed to be a dangerous Class 15 Deathworlder, but I'm just a librarian from Chicago. You want to punish me? Fine, but don't punish everyone else by depriving them of stories." Warden Zeldar had overseen the Proxima Maximum Security Station for 47 standard cycles, and in all that time, nothing had prepared him for the human. The prisoner designation read, James Mitchell, Class 15 Deathworld origin, sentenced to isolation for excessive socialization during mandatory silence periods. What the file didn't capture was the sheer impossibility of keeping a human alone. "Sir," his deputy, Officer Crix, buzzed through the communicator, "we have a situation in Block 7. Zeldar's mandibles clicked in irritation. Block 7 was where they kept Mitchell. "What now?" "He's teaching, sir." The warden's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Teaching what?" "Literature, sir. Apparently, he's memorized several human books and is reciting them to the ventilation system." Zeldar made his way to the isolation wing, his chitinous feet clicking against the metal flooring. Through the observation panel, he could see Mitchell sitting cross-legged on his sleeping platform, speaking animatedly to the air vent above his head. "So Gatsby represents the corruption of the American dream," Mitchell was saying. "But here's the thing. Nick is an unreliable narrator, which means we can't trust his romanticized version of events." A series of clicks and hums echoed from the ventilation shaft. Zeldar's translator struggled with the sounds before rendering them as, "But surely the green light symbolizes hope?" The warden's blood ran cold. That voice belonged to Thekmore, a crystalline prisoner 3 cells down, supposedly in complete isolation. "Exactly," Mitchell continued enthusiastically. "Hope corrupted by obsession. Now, if we compare that to Orwell's 1984. "Sir," Crix whispered, "it appears the entire isolation block is participating." Over the following days, Zeldar discovered the extent of Mitchell's operation. The human had somehow turned the prison's ventilation system into a. Zeldar stared at this small, seemingly harmless biped who had somehow transformed his maximum security prison into an educational institution. The human had committed no violence, broken no physical barriers, harmed no one. He had simply done what humans apparently did best. He had connected. The other prisoners, Zeldar began slowly. They've requested formal educational programs. Mitchell's face lit up with that unsettling human expression of joy. "Really? And they've specifically requested you as their instructor." "I accept on one condition." The audacity nearly made Zeldar's exoskeleton crack. "You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I want library access for all participants. Real books, not just digital files." Stories need to be held, passed hand to hand. That's how they survive. 3 months later, Proxima Maximum Security Station housed the galaxy's first interspecies literary society. Recidivism had dropped to record lows, and requests for transfer to the facility had increased by 400%. Zeldar found Mitchell in the newly constructed library, surrounded by a diverse group of formerly violent criminals, all quietly reading. You know, the warden admitted, I'm beginning to understand why Earth is classified as a Class 15 death world. Mitchell looked up from his book. Why's that? Because you don't conquer through force. You conquer through stories.